powerful Roman Empire once thought of Britain as a myth, just an old legend to them. But in 55 BC, Julius Caesar decided to check it out. He sailed there but didn't succeed. Nearly 100 years later, Emperor Claudius landed in Britain. They liked Stonehenge and used it for their ceremonies. They built a city called Londinium and took control of the land. But what came after that in United Kingdom history? To learn about this interesting place, we need to go back to the start. United Kingdom begins a long time ago. About 950,000 years ago, something important happened. It was the start of what we now call ancient civilization. The first people to come to Britain were hunters and gatherers. They came from Europe around 800 BC. We call them the first Britons now. These early Britons lived off the land. They hunted animals, caught fish, and gathered wild plants for food. They moved around a lot, following the animals and plants as the seasons changed. It's really hard to find human remains from this time, so experts don't know for sure which kind of early humans lived there. But the tools they left behind suggest they were probably a type of early human called Homo heidelbergensis, which is a subgroup of Homo erectus. These early people relied a lot on hunting and scavenging for food. Wooden spears found in Essex, believed to be around 450,000 years old, show evidence of this. While stone tools are more common, the worn-out bits of flint from these tools still give archaeologists a lot of information about how they were used and what life was like back then. As tool-making techniques advanced, Neanderthals in Britain started using their weapons to hunt bigger animals like woolly rhinos and mammoths, which used to live in Britain. Later on, in the Upper Paleolithic era, humans started evolving into what we are today. Some traits of our ancient ancestors still survive, like wisdom teeth, which were important for eating raw food. Europe during this time was very cold due to the last ice age. Around 11,300 years ago, Britain started getting warmer. Birch and pine trees started growing more, along with other plants. As the climate continued to warm, people had to adapt. They started hunting red deer and boar more as other animal species either moved away or died out. This forced humans to improve their tools and technology to survive. The Bronze Age marked a significant change in Britain, starting around 2200 BC. The arrival of metal, particularly bronze, and the use of beaker-style pots signaled this shift. One advantage of bronze over copper was that it could be cast at a lower temperature, allowing for more intricate designs. This led to the creation of durable weapons like daggers, halberds, and axes, which replaced the less sturdy stone tools. The Iron Age began around 1200 BC in the Middle East and southeast of Europe, known for extensive iron and steel crafting. While iron smelting was rare during the end of the Bronze Age, it wasn't until the Iron Age that it became widespread across Europe. The early Iron Age was dominated by elite groups known as the Hallstatt chiefs, who built fortified hill forts and raised livestock, laying the foundation for future castles and palaces. Roman Empire. As the Roman Empire expanded, it eventually gained control over most of Britain. Prior to this, the empire had already dominated the Mediterranean Sea and conquered ancient cities like Carthage and Macedon, along with regions such as Egypt and Syria. The journey to Britain, known as Albion at the time, was significant, as it was previously unknown to the Romans. By the time Julius Caesar arrived in Britain in 55 and 54 BC, Iron Age settlements had progressed significantly, boasting thriving agriculture, wooden structures, and bustling communities. Trade routes had been established between the Britons and neighboring Gauls, people from what is now France and Belgium, with goods like wine and the earliest forms of currency being exchanged. However, the Romans had long regarded Britain as a distant and mythical land, inhabited by barbaric groups engaging in practices considered repugnant. Caesar's initial efforts to conquer Britain faced resistance, and it wasn't until Emperor Claudius's invasion in 43 AD that Roman rule began to take hold. Roman influence was evident in the construction of amphitheaters, Roman baths, and the teaching of Latin to the locals. By 130 AD, formidable military garrisons were established across the continent, and groups considered barbarians, such as those in the Balkans, were encouraged to aid in Roman expansion. Viking Britain. In the year 793, Norse people from Scandinavia arrived on Britain's shores, kicking off a 300-year era known as the Viking Age. These invaders first targeted a Christian monastery, beginning a series of coastal raids across England, Scotland, and Ireland. Eventually, led by Ragnar Lothbrok's son, Evar the Boneless, they formed the Great Heathen Army and settled in Britain instead of just raiding. By 865, the Great Heathen Army reached East Anglia, where King Edmund the Martyr tried to appease them with provisions and shelter. However, after Edmund's defeat, the Vikings quickly captured York and conquered all of Britain's kingdoms except Wessex. In 878, Alfred the Great of Wessex defeated the Vikings at the Battle of Edington, leading to the Treaty of Wedmore. In a surprising turn, the treaty included Guthrum's baptism, with Alfred as his godfather, and required the Vikings to leave Wessex. Over time, Viking customs deeply influenced the territories they controlled, known as the Danelaw, including important towns like Derby, Leicester, Lincoln, Nottingham, and Stamford. Despite conflicts, Vikings and Anglo-Saxons lived together, intermingling cultures and language. Many words in English today have Norse origins, like sky, ugly, husband, gift, egg, and Thursday. Alfred the Great's daughter, Ethelflaed, continued the fight against the Vikings after her husband's death. She became known as the Lady of the Mercians and played a significant role in defeating Viking rule. By 954, the last Norse king, Eric Bloodaxe, was forced out of Northumbria, marking the end of the Danelaw era. Medieval history. During the 12th century, the power dynamics in England were complex, with men often tied to land ownership or owing service to a master. King Henry II's friendship with Thomas Becket, the Archbishop of Canterbury, initially held sway over the people and religion. However, their relationship soured, leading to Becket's murder in Canterbury Cathedral, tarnishing Henry's reputation. King John, who ascended the throne in 1199, was notorious for his cruelty and tyranny. He levied heavy taxes, used violence to maintain control, and clashed with the Pope. Facing pressure from internal and external forces, King John reluctantly signed the Magna Carta in 1215, granting certain rights and liberties to his subjects. The Black Plague, which ravaged Europe from 1347 to 1350, had a devastating impact on Britain, claiming over 1.5 million lives. The pandemic, believed to be airborne, caused widespread death and disruption, leading to economic hardship and social upheaval. The Peasant Revolt of 1381 was a response to oppressive taxation and labor conditions, culminating in a violent uprising against the ruling class. Peasants demanded the removal of taxes and wage caps, as well as an end to feudal control over their lives. The Wars of the Roses, fought between the House of Lancaster and the House of York, were fueled by rival claims to the throne. The conflict lasted from 1455 to 1485, with the Battle of Bosworth Field resulting in the defeat of Richard III and the ascension of Henry VII, marking the beginning of the Tudor period. These events, from the Magna Carta to the Wars of the Roses, shaped medieval England's political landscape and set the stage for the Tudor dynasty's rise to power. Tudor dynasty. After defeating Richard III's army in the Battle of Bosworth in 1485, Henry VII's reign marked the beginning of the Tudor dynasty, lasting for 118 years and encompassing 5 monarchs. This era, renowned for its notable rulers, played a pivotal role in reshaping England's politics, religion, and monarchy. Henry's marriage to Elizabeth of York united the feuding Lancaster and York families, leading to the birth of 8 children. Despite losing several children, including Arthur, Margaret, and Mary Tudor, Henry sought to secure his family's legacy. Henry's son, Edward VI, succeeded him but died prematurely, leaving the Tudor government in turmoil. The throne passed to Edward's half-sisters, Mary and Elizabeth, both of whom faced challenges due to their gender and religious beliefs. Mary I's reign saw a return to Catholicism and the persecution of Protestants, earning her the moniker Bloody Mary. Upon Mary's death, Elizabeth I ascended to the throne, ushering in a prosperous era known as the Elizabethan Age. Despite facing assassination attempts and conflicts with Rome, Elizabeth's reign was marked by stability and cultural flourishing. Elizabeth's period witnessed significant societal changes, including advancements in agriculture, the rise of trade, and reforms in poor relief and education. The criminal justice system favored physical punishments, while leisure activities like sports, gaming, and entertainment gained popularity. 18th century modern England. The 18th century, known as the Georgian era, was a time when England saw big changes because of the Industrial Revolution. This was when things like steam power, canals, and big factories became common. Even though there were big factories, many of the places where things were made were still small. For example, people who worked with cloth, like spinning, weaving, and dyeing, usually worked in small workshops. Different parts of Britain became known for different industries. Like, the Midlands was famous for making metal stuff, the Northeast for mining, and the West Midlands for making glass. One big change was the use of steam power. Thomas Newcomen came up with a steam engine that was good for doing lots of things, like moving big machines and pumping water out of mines. By the late 19th century, there were around 2,000 steam engines being used in Britain. The Derby family made stronger metals using iron, which was perfect for making big machines. With steam engines, coal mining became easier, which made coal one of the most important things in the whole country. Britain played a significant role in the First World War, offering its services and ushering in the modern age. During the war, the focus shifted to developing weapons and strategic warfare, resulting in the loss of millions of lives due to trench warfare. Britain saw unprecedented levels of death, with around 16 million lives lost by the end of the fighting. After the war ended in 1918, Britain faced another war, World War II, which began in 1939 when Germany invaded Poland. Between 1945 and 1951, Britain focused on healing from the effects of World War II, with the Labour Party leading the charge after Winston Churchill was replaced as Prime Minister. During the Cold War era, Britain aligned with the United States and participated in conflicts such as the Korean War. It also became an original member of NATO to protect against Soviet threats. In 1947, India gained independence from British rule, marking the start of the British Empire's dismantlement. Britain underwent significant changes between 1950 and 2000, including increased immigration, the establishment of the welfare state, and joining the European Union. Queen Elizabeth II ascended the throne in 1952, following the death of her father, King George VI. Britain faced challenges during this time, including economic crises and conflicts in Northern Ireland. Margaret Thatcher's tenure as Prime Minister in the 1980s saw significant economic changes, including privatization and cuts to spending. Queen Elizabeth II's death in 2022 marked the end of an era, and Britain entered a new chapter. Throughout its history, Britain has made significant contributions to the world, particularly in industry, culture, and language, leaving a lasting impact globally. That's all for today, folks. If you enjoyed watching this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more videos.